Hello Wanderers, today we're going to be diving into something you may or may not have heard about, and that is the Far East expansion coming up for CK3 in its Chapter 4 DLC releases. So I will just say I am aware that a video by the CK3 team did just come out, probably right before this video came out. So already some of the things I have said may be out of date. I'll try to remember to leave a link to that video down below. But in any case, if you want to stick around and just learn a little bit about Chinese history, there will be some more about that further along in the video, and we will just be speculating on some of the things that we are going to hopefully be seeing in this expansion. But like I said, already the things I say may be way out of date, so guess we'll find out. Now, we don't have all of the details of exactly what we are going to be seeing in there, but from the images that were released, we are definitely going to be getting the steppe hordes. We already knew that for some time, but it does seem pretty much confirmed that we are also going to be getting China in this next expansion, and possibly more regions, Southeast Asia, Korea, things like that, maybe even Japan, who knows? We don't know yet. Now, like many of you, I am a lover of history, and I grew up playing games like Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Dynasty Warriors, and I am a huge fan of that three periods history in China. I'm not quite as familiar with the later periods that we are most likely going to be seeing in the new DLC and the new expansion, but I have been kind of catching myself up on some of that to get an idea of what the period and what the situation would be like in the three known start dates that we already have for Crusader Kings 3. There may be more start dates, or at least another start date coming in for this expansion as well, but we don't know that yet. And I will be getting into some of that history just to speculate on what we might find the world situation to be in. But there's a couple other things that we do know is going to be coming out for the new DLC as well, and they're things that we should also be pretty excited for. Now, one of those things is going to be the ability to automate your wars. Now, this is something that I'm going to be pretty excited about. I do like to micromanage, despite what you may think from my videos. When I'm not trying to narrate and tell a story at the same time, I'm actually usually pretty good at micromanaging. However, I have a one-track mind, and narrating, storytelling, focusing on all sorts of different things at the same time as micromanaging my armies, not as easy. So this is going to be pretty cool. I'm curious to see how good the AI is going to be in that. It seems like there's going to be quite a few different options for how you want to automate your armies. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that and getting a better or a closer look at what we can expect this automation to look like. And I'm sure there's going to be plenty of bug testing around that, but honestly, I think that this could be pretty cool because I know that there's a lot of people out there who enjoy aspects from CK3 other than just the war, and so this is probably going to be something that a lot of people will look favorably upon. And if you like to micromanage your armies, you don't gotta use it, so seems like a win-win to me. One of the other things that we can expect is an update to the court position interface. Now, as it stands now, I'm sure you guys are all pretty familiar with it. It's very basic, especially compared to your council position interface, and it seems like they're gonna be going in and making that look a little bit more interesting, a little bit more interactive. I'm hoping that there's going to be some more interactions in there, like you see with your physician, where you can put them onto different tasks, or your not court bard, but you're the one who does the legends. You guys know what I'm talking about there. You can set them on these different tasks. I'm hoping we get to see some more tasks for some of the different positions, like your bodyguards, your wet nurse, your tutors, etc. That would be pretty cool. Just adding in more directions with those characters can add a little bit more life to your court. So that's something I'm also looking forward to. Not a huge deal. It's not something that, is going to break anybody's minds, but it is going to be a nice little added feature. We do also know that they are going to be doing some improvements, some updates to the Legends feature from the Legends of the Dead expansion. We don't know exactly what this is going to be, but we have seen things like this before. Like when the Royal Court DLC came out, it was relatively basic. There was, it had some features, but there were a lot of updates that came out to it that expanded upon it. And then we saw the same thing with tours and tournaments, where we got some additional improvements, some additional content to that with the later DLCs. And so that's something that we can expect for the Legends feature and the Legends mechanics as well. I don't really know what that's going to look like, but I'm curious to see what they've got in mind, how they're going to expand upon that. Because the Legends feature as it is, not something I really use that much. It's kind of expensive and it just gives you some passive bonuses, it seems. And honestly, it's not really all that intriguing to me. So if they can make it a little bit more interactive, I'm all for that, honestly. But the real question is, what can we expect for the new expansion, the Far East expansion, if indeed we are going to be getting places like China, Korea, Southeast Asia, maybe even Japan? I wouldn't be surprised if they keep Japan out of it. Who knows what the map's gonna look like? I know we have seen some mods that have added this in, and maybe it's gonna look something a little bit like those, but we can't really be sure at this point, and it's probably gonna be a while before we do know. But yeah, we can be pretty excited about this. I do suspect now we are going to be going into some pretty interesting periods of this history. And I'd want to go over just the current start dates that we have and how that can, what kind of situation we're going to be seeing in the world, in the Far East during our current start date. So as you know, the first start date that we have in Crusader Kings 3 is the 867 start date. And this is going to be a pretty interesting start date, I think, because this is the downfall of the Tang dynasty. Now, the actual full-on end of the Tang dynasty isn't until about 40 years after this in 907, but they've been collapsing for quite a while, almost 100 years. And that is because of a rebellion, the An Lushan Rebellion. I might be pronouncing that wrong. It happened about 100 years before this, but it was absolutely crazy. There were 30 million deaths during this rebellion. The numbers were completely insane, and China was absolutely devastated by this. Like, 30 million deaths is nothing that can be scoffed at. This is one of the history's deadliest conflicts, honestly. And so after this time period, we start to see a lot more warlords, a lot more loss of power from the central government in China. And so considering that the full-on collapse of the Tang dynasty is, 40 years after this start date, we can expect that we're kind of jumping into things right in the kind of last, the last gasps of this very powerful empire that's been completely devastated over the last 100 years. So we're probably going to get some cool warlords out in the outer region to play as, and there's definitely going to be some insane intrigue going on within China as well. So elsewhere in the region during the 867 start date, if we do indeed get Korea and Southeast Asia, in Korea we're also seeing the fall of a dynasty, the later Silla Kingdom dynasty. I don't really know too much about this. I did Google this a little bit before making this video, but it seems like we're also going to be seeing a lot of instability in that region. That leads to a Three Kingdoms period within Korea as well that happens just after the start date. So we might be seeing a little bit of this. And we also see the rise of the Khmer Empire, and that is in Cambodia, obviously, and is going to become an extremely powerful kingdom, but it's not quite getting to that point yet. We're still kind of in the earlier stages of it. So as we move into the 1066 start date, we're going to see a completely different China than we saw in the 867 start date. And that is because China has been taken over, consolidated by the Song dynasty. Now, the Song dynasty is very powerful, especially during this time. However, they're not without their threats. They do still have the Khitan people from the north that are going to play a bigger role in the next start date. But yeah, people from the steppes are coming in and, causing trouble. But we are seeing a very powerful, very centralized Song dynasty during this time. And so we're going to be playing a more unified version of China, which is probably going to mean lots of court intrigue and things like that. I'm sure that they're going to expand upon the administrative system that we saw for the Byzantines in the later or more recent expansions, but customized and changed to fit with the Chinese government type during this. So we might see some kind of cool administrative type that's similar to what we know from the Byzantine Empire in CK3, but for, especially for China. So we're, and possibly we're going to have to, manage the different factions like the eunuchs and things like that. So could be very cool as well. But yeah, this is going to be a little bit more stable in China than we saw in the last start date. Korea in this time is also a lot more stable. It's now ruled by the Goryeo dynasty, which I'm guessing is where modern day Korea takes its naming inspiration from. But yeah, they're also fighting off the Khitans as well. And so, this region is also fairly stable. This whole start date within these various regions, a lot more stable than we saw in the last start date. So, but that just is going to mean like lots more intrigue and court play compared to, say, like rebellious warlords and things like that. We'll definitely be seeing some of that, but yeah, things are stable for now. Not only that, but we also have the Khmer Empire is like pretty much at its peak during this time, extremely powerful. They're making things like the Angkor Wat, which is not, being built just yet, but it is going to be built soon. But like the Khmer Empire is very powerful at this time. And so we're going to be seeing a pretty strong Khmer Empire. So, possibly even a good rival to China from the south could be very interesting to play in that region during this time as well. And then heading into the 1178 start date, things are going to descend into chaos once more. And that is because we have the war between the Song dynasty and the Jin. Now, the Jin is a Jurchen-led dynasty. Not exactly sure on the pronunciation there. We'll call them the Jurchen. Somebody can correct me in the comments if I've got that wrong as well. But they have conquered the northern part of China like 50 years before this. And so China is split into two between the Jin in the north and the remnants of the Song in the south. So this is a pretty fractured time. This is all going to obviously lead to the rise of the Mongols, which happens not too long after this. As you will know from if you've played in the 1178 start date. So yeah, we're gonna be seeing some really crazy wars going on during this time, one can expect. And this is probably gonna be a pretty cool start date. Also, gunpowder weapons starting to get used in this time period. Are we gonna see special retinue units with gunpowder weapons? That could be pretty epic. And honestly, I can only imagine how people are going to use that in their own custom CK3 campaigns. Because, yeah, things could get pretty interesting there with those custom units. Not only that, but we're also seeing the decline of the Goryeo dynasty in Korea, the decline of the Khmer are, they're starting to overextend by this point. But they're still pretty strong. But yeah, things are, there's other regional powers who are definitely competitors for them. So Southeast Asia still going to be pretty interesting at this point. So yeah, that's the 3 start dates we have now. Now, are they going to add another start date? Who knows? They probably don't need to, honestly, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do. There's absolutely no way they're going to be adding a 3 kingdoms period of China start date. That would be way too far back. If they did, the Roman Empire in Europe would be at like almost its absolute peak by that point. So I don't know, that would be a little bit weird for them to add, but it would be, I don't know, it would be pretty cool. Like I said, I grew up playing 3 Kingdoms games, and I've got some of my favorite characters, like you never fight Lu Bu in in a duel because you ain't gonna win. And honestly, I'm really excited for this chapter 4. We'll see what happens with it. Like many of you, I was hoping that we would eventually get to play as merchant characters at some point here, but honestly, I'm probably more excited for a Far East expansion than I am for that even. And so, yeah, what do you guys think? Do you have any theories? Who knows what we're gonna see in this next expansion? But I'm very curious as to see what you guys think of this and what we can expect to see in the coming weeks and months as they prepare to release some of this DLC. So thanks for coming along with me on this ride, Wanderers. Until we know more and until our next roleplay video comes out, thank you all for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, but I will see you in the next one.